doing.
Turn right. There you go. You're getting to be one of the best getaway drivers now. And then, turn right. There you go. You're getting to be one of the best getaway drivers now.
Trying to save their democracy. Many were young.
In 200 meters, turn left.
I imagine many of them are languishing in Chinese prisons today. I remember seeing one young man, Joshua Wong, who was one of the leaders of the pro-democracy umbrella movement. He had just been released from a...
Turn left. If anybody knows how to do a good left turn, it's you.
Thrusting microphones into his face. What are you going to do now? One journalist asked him. Come back to protest, he said.
Turn right. You know what? You're shaping up to be a real good bad guy. In 400 meters, turn right. You know what? You're shaping up to be a real good bad guy.
That's the point. Who knows if we will win against the mighty and cruel forces trying to turn democracy into a relic of the past, trying to turn our planet into a relic of the past. I have no idea, but I do know this. We must fight on.
In 200 meters, turn right. You do this so good.
The result. Because I also know this. If we fight, we may not win. But if we don't fight, we will certainly lose. Thank you very much for listening and for having us. An impassioned speech there.
In 200 meters, turn left and howl as you turn. That'll confuse everybody. And then, turn right. You know what? You're shaping up to be a real good bad guy.
In the room.
If you'd like to share your thoughts on Jane's lecture, you can email us. bigideas@abc.net.au is our email address. And thanks to Jane Caro and to Matt.
Turn left. And then, turn right. You know what? You're shaping up to be a real good bad guy.
Big Ideas with me, Natasha Mitchell, Big Thinkers at the best live events. And you can find us on the airwaves Monday.
In 200 meters, turn right. I love the way you turn right, by the way.
Oh, we went through
Very dignified.
Or wherever you get your podcasts. 4 new episodes every week. Thanks for your company. I'll catch you next time for more Big Ideas.
It's 11 minutes to 1 on ABC Radio National. Few texts on this topic. Says Jane Caro makes such an important connection between the political ideology of promoting what I call the me generation for decades now. Hardly surprising that so many put their views and interests above community interest and values. It goes on, congratulations, we're now the bubble generation that ignores science and facts. Then there's a couple of texts suggesting that Jane Caro should be PM. The text number is 0418 226 576. And then there's this response. This monologue is reductive and frustrating. The opportunities for education in this country.
Turn right. There you go. You're getting to be one of the best getaway drivers now.
Allows. I came from two parents who lived bullies. I went to a local public high school by choice, not a selective one that was too far away, and I got a scholarship for university. It goes on, I'm moderately smart and not very talented. I met my husband who went to one of Australia's most prestigious schools and my inter-score was better than his. Schooling is vastly about what you make it and not just the fault in quote marks of the parents or school system. Emphasis needs to be on making the best of opportunities you have, which I think is not taught to people anymore. You don't deserve the best education in the world if you don't work for it. That text line 0418 226 576. And a public school features in today's poem too. Ahead on Mindbreaker.
Tonight from 6, this for National. Here's some of the most interesting on some of the most important and challenging issues of our time. Politics, the arts, science and culture. It's a deep dive beyond the daily headlines. That's the Radio National Hour, tonight from 6, and then at 10, Late Night Live.
ABC Radio National.
poetry can help us see things differently. Our environment, our relationships, ourselves. This is Line Break on ABC Radio National, our weekly hit of poetry. And today's poem casts its eye over the way we design our towns and cities, which is something we can all relate to. It's by Caitlin Clark. She's based in Lutruwita, Tasmania, and it's called Life in Lightsview.
They took a blank canvas of unused land, knocked down one public school, and now here stands a multi-award-winning suburban masterpiece. Lightsview, an urban desert of densely packed cul-de-sacs stacked with double-storey single-brick townies rendered mute in hues of grey and cream, stuff of subdividers' wet dreams. Complete with a man-made lake, this static body, what a well-placed slice of nature geometrically shaped.
Wait here, wait. Quiet, please. Yes. Wait here, wait. Yes. Yes, wait here. So, I think it's a powered service.
You must have to check in
And then it says, these facilities City Council. Did you want to have your food?
I can have a bite. Are they the same?
Yeah. They cut in half in the middle.
internet okay?
Yeah, I think so. Are you having problems?
I'll restart Facebook.
Lamiru Silo Art. So have we decided on where we're going yet?
I'm driving to Oyen and see what happens after that. Bruce finished his job yesterday.
Oh, did he? So he's not there anymore. Or is he?
He's still there. I think he said he leaves tomorrow. He's going to Dubbo and get the new awning fitted.
Hmm.
Then he's there for a few days and then he has a whole itinerary planned for his trip home.
I wonder if they're the ones who are maintaining the place.
No, this is Shane's shit shifter. They do sewer tanks.
see a wet October that didn't eventuate because of various weather patterns, and over coming weeks we are expecting warm conditions to continue.
Meanwhile, thunderstorms are impacting parts of New South Wales. Thousands of households and businesses are without power in the state's central west. Thunderstorm has hit the Orange and Bathurst district, bringing heavy rain and strong winds. Essential Energy says almost 8,000 properties have been affected in the area, and crews are investigating. Fire and Rescue New South Wales says teams are responding to reports of trees and power lines down. Also in New South Wales, Fire and Rescue says it's receiving a surge in calls across the central tablelands due to storm-related damage. Emergency services are responding to a number of incidents within and near Orange, including the wires down, trees falling down and poles on fire, and there are also reports a person is trapped under a fallen tree. Turning to Victoria now, and the State Emergency Service says about 10 properties have been damaged by high winds east of Melbourne. Services were impacted southeast of Melbourne. Customers in the Frankston and Mornington Peninsula areas lost mobile voice and data services due to vandals cutting through aerial fibre this morning. Just outside the outage area have also reported coverage issues. 5 of the 6 sites have since been restored. Spokesperson Jane McNamara says 000 calls appear to be unaffected, but the outage has caused widespread disruption.
It's complete disappointment and frustration that criminals want to cut and steal copper cable, and in the meantime absolutely inconveniencing Victorians and their ability to live their daily lives and access critical connectivity.
Turning overseas, US President Donald Trump has backed away from his Thursday deadline for Ukraine to agree to a peace plan. Linda Gorman reports.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Mr. Trump said negotiators are making progress in discussions with Russia and Ukraine, and that Moscow has agreed to some concessions. And he's made a U-turn on a deadline he'd earlier set for Thanksgiving, now saying the deadline is when it's over. Donald Trump is sending his envoy Steve Witkoff to Moscow for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin next week, and admits that resolving the war is difficult because, as he puts it, there's a lot of hatred. He's also played down the element of his plan that would require Ukraine to cede territory to Russia, suggesting that Russian forces are already likely to seize the land they're ceding.
The bodies of 2 climbers have been recovered after the pair fell to their deaths from New Zealand's highest mountain. The men were part of a group of 4 climbing Mount Cook, Rocky. The 2 died. One was named internationally qualified mountain guide, the other was his client. And you're up to date with the latest from ABC News.
Welcome to the World Today. Hello, I'm Andy Park, coming to you from Gadigal Land in Sydney. Today, headline annual inflation worsens ahead of the RBA's last rates call for the year. And one of the biggest repair projects on the reef fights to stop coral bleaching.
So we're actually trying to help the reef become more resilient and adapt to climate change. That needs to be tackled to obviously for the reefs to be able to be sustainable and to go into the future.
Queensland is sweating through heatwave conditions today, while in the southeast of the state, residents are bracing for severe thunderstorms for the 3rd day in a row. Brisbane is once again in the firing line for heavy rain, large hail and damaging winds. Across the rest of the country, it appears the fire season is already upon us. Rachel Mead reports.
The last days of spring are seeing hot and humid weather across much of the country. In New
released by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Business reporter David Taylor joined me earlier. David, before we jump into these figures, this is a new kind of way of looking at Bureau of Statistics data. What is the significance of that?
That's right, Andy. This is the first release, the complete monthly consumer price index from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Now, what the Bureau has said at the timing of the release is that today's release marks the transition from the quarterly CPI to the complete monthly CPI. Now,
it's very windy
bills it as Australia's primary measure of headline inflation. Don't need to worry about the jargon too much, but the word complete monthly CPI keeps on cropping up, and that's because the previous monthly inflation indicator that we've had up until this point doesn't give the Reserve Bank, which really needs solid information on what price rises are doing across the economy. It just doesn't give it enough of an idea of the extent of price rises in the economy, specifically, Andy, over time in that indicator. So this is meant to give a much broader view of price trends in the economy to put it in a better position of making interest rate decisions.
So what does all of that mean when we're talking about rise in inflation and the state of inflation across the country?
That 3.8% is the headline figure, and it's a little bit more bumpy. It goes a bit more up and down than a figure I'll give you a bit later, Andy. But it is pointing to the fact that price pressures are still in the economy. I'll give you a few examples, Andy. Housing up 6%. Now, within that category, you've got rental prices up 4.2% in the month of October, and the cost of building a new home up 1.7% again in the month of October. They're pretty steep increases, but let's go to electricity now, because those people receiving bills in the paper that I thought the cost of living crisis was over, are getting a bit of bill shock to understand this figure I'm about to give you. Electricity prices rose 37% in the 12 months to October, and the annual rise in electricity costs is primarily related to state government electricity rebates in Queensland and Western Australia being used up by households, so it's coming back online there. Healthcare, Andy, this is out-of-pocket healthcare costs up 4%, and education up 4%.
So the RBA will powwow once more for Christmas, and this data is timely, but do you think it will open the door to a rate cut, a rate hold, or a rate increase?
Look, I think there is no question a rate cut is off the cards, potentially, for this entire rate cutting cycle. The trimmed mean, Andy, remember I said earlier that we looked at the headline figure, another measure which is far more, I guess it smooths out all of the bumps and volatility in the data, gives the Reserve Bank a great picture of price rises in the economy. It came in at 3.3%, that's the trimmed mean. That is outside of the Reserve Bank's comfort zone between 2 and 3%. So some economists are of the opinion that just rules out any rate cut. I spoke to one economist this morning, however, that said that there is potential, a very slight potential for the Reserve Bank to be pressured to increase interest rates sooner than it would otherwise want. So plenty of data here, Andy, but the key message is the price rises in the economy.
Business correspondent David Taylor. It's already hard to speak to a real human in a bank or on the phone, and if that frustrates you, you better take note of what's already quietly happening in the banking sector right now. This week, Bendigo Bank announced an agreement with Google to use Gemini Enterprise Artificial Intelligence to assess loan applications and fraud detection. In August, the Commonwealth Bank announced OpenAI will bring advanced AI to customers and employees. It all comes as the federal government announces that it will set up an Artificial Intelligence Safety Institute to assess emerging capabilities and evaluate the risks of the technology. Michael Mehmet is an associate professor in marketing at the University of Wollongong. He joins me earlier. Michael, we've seen AI quietly arrive in industries and industrial sectors like law, academia, accounting, media. In what ways are the big four banks already using it?
Essentially, about 85% of AI work happens behind the scenes. Employers are testing, refining tools. There's still what we call a human in the loop in this situation, either with fraud detection, loan applications, even scam detection. So companies like CommBank have reported 50% reduction in scam losses thanks to tools like Namecheck, where employees can work with the AI to check things out. There's also a lot of back office revolution, like JP Morgan created what's called a coin platform, which essentially goes through and looks at documents and provides reports, and they're saving hundreds and thousands of hours worth of time and quite costly time. things are moving forward, and they're moving forward very quickly. So we'll obviously have AI that's going to help employees still. But there's a move now where they're going to start playing a bigger role in decision making. So some banks are testing financial coaches that might proactively message you with personalized savings tips. It's what we call autonomous finance systems that essentially can help you manage your money with minimal input from you. So they can basically say, okay, we'll automatically move idle cash to a better performing account. They can be able to even help you refinance debt when rates drop, so you don't actually have to physically call up a bank or do anything. So essentially they'll be there to help you optimize your bills and your investments. This is actually quite transformative. It's what we call agentic AI. So if you want to think of agentic AI as a tool that makes decisions very much similar to what a human would, but without human input or very minimal human input. So think of it like a self-driving car, but for your finance.
And for the big four banks, this all spells out huge productivity gains and therefore profit potential. In fact, consulting firm McKinsey looked at some of the productivity gains on offer with AI in the banking sector. What did they find?
The McKinsey report was, even when I read it, I was stunned by the numbers that came out of it. So just with basic AI use and, with just some automation, they're saving 15, 20, 25% of productivity. But when you unleash AI's full autonomy, that agentic AI, they're reporting anywhere between 200 and 2,000% increases in productivity. I haven't misspoken there, like 200 to 2,000% increases in productivity.
This all must spell disaster for banking employees, and in fact one bank was already tripped up when they tried to ditch staff for technology, weren't they?
Yes, well the Combank a little while ago had some might call it a significant misstep. There was 45 workers redundant after they unknowingly had trained the AI system that replaced them. One of the workers actually confronted the CEO. The CEO obviously said we didn't handle that well, and they were re-employed. But it kind of highlights a big concern is if agentic AI is as good as OpenAI and Google claim it is, and it's going to increase efficiencies to the point it's going to increase efficiencies, where does it stop? What happens to people without work? Like if the agentic tool can do so many things across so many different sectors,
negotiations from both sides over the last week. US President Donald Trump is sending officials to Moscow and Ukraine, as Kathleen O'Connor reports.
Police officers in Kyiv surround a huge crater in the ground after Russia launched another wave of attacks on Ukraine's capital overnight. 22 missiles were fired on city buildings and energy infrastructure, killing at least 7 people. It's cut residents off from water, electricity and heat as the city enters its winter season.
In 1 kilometer, turn left. Show the world what a beautiful team a wolf and a human can be.
Mildura a region?
A Ukrainian attack on southern Russia also killed 3 people and damaged homes overnight. As the fighting drags on, international leaders met to discuss US President Donald Trump's latest trade agreement to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Despite the prospect of large land concessions and a blocking of entering NATO, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has declared he's ready to meet with Mr. Trump to further negotiate his proposed peace deal.
Ukraine has the framework developed by our
you're turning it off.
is on the table,
185.
and we are ready to move forward together with the United States of America.
President Trump revealed his plan to end fighting last week, setting off talks with political leaders across Europe, Russia and the United States. The US president spoke in Washington, D.C.
I think we're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out. I thought that one would have been gone quicker. We did 8.
Yep.
I thought that would have been an easier one, but I think we'll make it.
Oh, good.
On social media, his
No,
original
don't need
28